Okay, everybody, welcome to our cult meeting, aka Wizard Wednesday. This is Elf
and Dotta,
channeling in from the Quantum Downs. We were just brought in by the musical stylings of Dota's favorite Norwegian band, the Shaggs. I had never heard of this band until just about 20 minutes ago. So, Dota, why don't you tell us about your favorite band?
Oh man, we only have an hour, right? I was just I was just looking up actually on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia says that the Shaggs they're from Fremont, New Hampshire, which is like literally next door to where I grew up in New Hampshire.
Oh,
But
okay.
I love that band so much. Okay, so that song, "The Philosophy of the World," and they have a whole album, and it's really awful, and but it's like both wonderful at the same time. So this band, like, uh, so it's these three sisters, right? And they like were playing, I think, pretty much in high school, and the music I think is just so atrocious, but the words are so genuine. So it kind of reminds me of like something like the White Stripes, but maybe it's a bit more like, I don't know, say like modern jazz, like Anthony Braxton, and they're one of the things I just love about that band is just how earnest it is. Like when you listen to the lyrics, and you listen, they have another song called Halloween, which you should listen to all the time. And
Mhm.
it's just so pure. And they
Yep.
were never really discovered because they didn't really have the internet. There's no real good distribution for something that was so like awkward. And I just feel like, it's a good representation of like what we're trying to do here, which is like earnest creation regardless of skill can like still find an audience and adoption. So yeah, listen to the Shaggs.
Nailed it. That's exactly right. Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking of so many like unknown bands that I know who sort of fit that description. But yeah, maybe that'll be the theme for our music selection for the next few weeks. Love it. So yeah, Dota, you and we both have 1,000 things to say for Wizard Wednesday today. I know I do. So let's just jump right in. Um, you know, I think as far as shout outs go, one of the things that really stood out to me this week was the amazing tattoo by on Tanya Del Rio's arm.
Oh,
um, Tanya, if you want to come up and say a few words about that, just feel free to do a request. Otherwise, I can just gush about it myself.
yeah.
But yeah, Dota, what did you think?
Yeah, it was like breathtaking. It's really like when I saw that, I like was just speechless. Like it was so beautiful, so well done. It was not one but two wizards integrated, like the runes and the fox and the mushrooms. It was just it was just incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Tanya's coming up. Great.
Hello, Tanya.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey.
Hi. Oh, so when did you get your tattoo, by the way? Like, how long ago was it? Because in that photo that you posted, it looked like, I don't know, it was either like super fresh or just healed up. I don't
it
know.
was
I don't know
super
how
fresh.
tattoos
I
work.
got it on
Super
Friday
fresh.
Friday evening, so I took it
Okay.
right after the session, so it was super shiny and
Oh.
brand new.
And then who is the artist who drew those? Oh, Hemi.
Hemi, yeah, she's a Korean artist who, and it's a
Okay.
studio in LA called Jun Jung Art. And yeah, she's amazing. I've been wanting to get a tattoo from her forever, and I got on her waiting list. And then as soon as I got accepted, I was like, I want to do Wizards. So yeah, I was really excited.
Love it. Well, we are honored to have a tattoo on the famous writer Tanya Del Rio.
Thank you so much. I'm just like blown away by this project. I couldn't be more proud to have this tattoo. So thank you guys for giving me a bit of a push to do it. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh,
Very
love
cool.
it. Love it.
Yeah, so yeah, that was one of my favorite things this week. Bonzo has made a new Wizard News video. I have not watched the most recent one. However, I did watch the last one. And just a real standout thing for me in that video was at the end of it, Bam Bam did a lore reading, which was like, it was told in this like really sort of, I would say, experimental format. I didn't really understand what was happening in the very beginning of it, and then as she told the story, I sort of understood. But regardless, Bam Bam is just an excellent storyteller. She's got a great voice. I don't know, we need to hear more from Bam Bam, I think.
I love when I'm able to tune in and listen to like the reading of the Book of Lore, and yeah, it's been great actually seeing how much the Book of Lore is growing. She said that they got halfway through, and one of the things I realized is people have probably been adding to the back. Like I know that Dee's added lore this morning at like position 13 or something, and so there might be, we might need volunteers for a second read through once we get done the first time.
For sure. Yep. And then speaking of the Book of Lore, we finally updated the cover with Oz's new artwork. And
Yeah.
I'll just say it looks 1,000 times better than the Book of Lore cover I did.
It looks really
So,
good.
it looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'll say like the first thing that really just like this little detail that stood out to me was like, okay, when I made the Book of Lore, I was like the one thing I kept wrestling with, I was like, this book doesn't feel like it's like sitting in this space properly. It looks like it's just sort of floating, and I was thinking like, do I need to draw a background for this book to sit on? And if I do, that's going to be a whole other piece of art. And like, I was just like, how do I integrate it? But Oz came up with a great solution, which is just like feather the edges and make them dark, and therefore it'll look like it's sitting in this black space. And I'm like, I can't believe that never occurred to me to do that. But yeah, Oz did an excellent job. I'm so excited for it. There's a few little bugs on the offsets that we still need to fix, but the cover is just gorgeous.
Yeah. Thanks, Oz.
Yeah. And then yeah, and then there's so many shout outs that we need to give. But I think I'm gonna jump to something else.
I'll share some tweets of the some of the commissions and artwork. I'm sharing them here in Spaces, so if y'all want to flip through those, we'll talk
Yeah,
about them in a
it's
bit.
just the user generated content is just getting like next level. It's like stunningly good. It's shockingly good. And this sort of is like going to touch on this theme that I want to sort of focus on for this show today. And it's just all sort of about the new media landscape. And I know that term gets thrown around a lot, and it means something different every year. But I'm going to take it in our direction for a minute, and just sort of what I'm seeing happen. So if you look at like the sort of evolution of media in the past, I don't know, like 80 years. One of the biggest forces that shapes media is the financial structures underneath them. Um, and so, if you take television, for example, when cable TV was a thing, that was all based on an advertiser model. To simplify it, it's basically the way the studio survived was that they would make content that advertisers could then buy ad space on, in the form of TV commercials, and then that revenue they made would have help the studio pay the bills and help them make more TV shows. And so what that meant though was that the content all had to be super advertiser friendly because that's who paid the bills. And so the advertisers had great influence over the shape of the content that the studios were allowed to make. And then so that, of course, meant that the studio execs, they were not solely concerned with what audiences want. They were concerned with what advertisers would want. And so that was like the model for like, I don't know, like 60, 70 years. And then a big shift came along when these subscriber based platforms came along. Like Netflix is like the main player in this space, HBO is another, and there's others. And they don't have ads. And so therefore they don't need to be concerned with what advertisers would want. They don't have to be advertiser safe. And so suddenly you get these studios that are allowed to make content where all they care about is appealing to real human beings, real audiences. And so now these very compelling stories and characters emerge. Like Game of Thrones is like something that is not ad safe, but it's like some of the best TV that's happened in the last 80 years.
Yeah, and I think some of the if yeah, and if I can interject, I think
Yeah,
some
go
of
for
the
it.
issue too is like safety and in terms of like is it experimental or whatever, and then there's also just in terms of like niche, right? So playing on that idea of TV, for example, if you get a spot on a news channel, CNN or something, they might give you a minute or 5 minutes or something, and so the pace of TV is one clip right after another. And
Yep,
so the view has always kind of been that people are stupid. You have to be super fast. You have to
yep,
be like really upbeat and it's really entertaining. And it turns out that like once we had the internet where you can kind of go directly to people, people are interested in listening to a lot longer form content. Like people will listen to like 2 hour lectures on podcasts. People will listen to, Joe Rogan, where it's a 3 hour interview.
yep.
And it wasn't that everyone was stupid or had low attention spans. It was just that was kind of, what dictated the needs of sort of advertising. And we're seeing, more and more niche content be viable, right? And more characters, like for example, I was telling you about this earlier, that like not only in Star Wars does like the Mandalorian get his own show. Like this week, my kids were watching a show that's all about like Boba Fett. It's like the Bobalorian,
Yep.
and so like, and it's just crazy that you can kind of have all these different facets of the entire world can have more and more content created about it because you don't have to like be constrained by television.
Yep, yep. Yeah, even just like the pace you were talking about, how they only had these little clips. The pace itself was influenced by ads because they had to leave room to show the damn commercial every like what, 10 minutes? And so even
Yeah,
that like shaped the content. Like everything was just like beholden to the advertisers.
right.
Um and so yeah, it's the financial structure underneath all this that like shapes the form of media. And so yeah, so then with the subscribers like Netflix and HBO, the content yeah became longer form. There was no commercial breaks. It was more experimental, a little more interesting, and so the relationship between the studio and the audience changed. Okay, and then so what's the next step in this evolution? Um, Clearly the financial structure needs to change to create a new model. And we, of course, believe that we are on the forefront of what that is. With Forgotten Runes, the audiences are not only the primary consideration of what Magic Machine makes, uh, they are also active owners and creators of the studio IP. And none of this was possible until the advent of blockchain tech. Um, so, basically, we just think that this is the next step of the evolution in this media revolution, and we are very excited about it. And I've got a lot more to say on this, but I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
comment.
yeah. I think that um, we were talking about this week how I don't know if you were going to talk about this, but we were talking to art students, particularly like at Cal Arts, and trying to pitch to them like, hey, why should you come work for us? And most of what they've really heard about NFTs is sort of this negativity. And I've been working on a blog post that's sort of like my love letter to artists who hate NFTs, and we sort of yeah we feel that it's just like everything that you think is kind of like evil about artists getting exploited or overworked or not having their work not valued or not overpaid. It's like we see ourselves as trying to correct that. Like we love your artwork for whatever it is. We want to pay you like a good wage for like creating it. um
Yep.
and it's like the most sort of like pure. We're not trying to sort of like mint a bunch of NFTs from your artwork. Even like it's just we want like to see our world unfold in whatever medium you're interested in.
It's so funny. Like every criticism that's levied against NFTs is not true at all. And but it is true of like the corporate studios. It's like, oh, you're gonna take advantages of us and you're gonna like exploit us and blah blah blah. And I'm like, who are you talking? Are you talking about Disney? Are you talking about DreamWorks? because that's not us. We want you to like actually make something that's unique in your own voice. You're not a cog in the machine. Um, anyway, but like, yes, you bring up a next, like, this is a good segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is like pitching a project like ours to non-crypto people. Um, and like, we've had to do this a lot in the last few months. And so we have to like talk about it in a way different way than we talk about it on Wizard Wednesday, for example. Um, and one of the biggest things that we have to shift is like, we don't lead with we're an NFT project. If we lead with that, then it already comes with like a ton of trouble.
Yeah.
So like I've like honed my talking points when I'm talking to non-crypto people, and so I kind of want to just like sort of just go over those briefly, like what they are. And it's actually given me like a really interesting perspective on this project. So like one key talking point is we are built by and for the creator economy. And that term creator economy is like a real big buzzword in media. It's not necessarily new and it's constantly evolving, but like that word, phrase, I think carries a lot of weight in what we're doing. Another thing is like something we tweeted in the very beginning, which is like, we are world building tweet by tweet. What that means is we are creating on social media. Like our project is developed and is unfolding in real time, tweet by tweet, on social media, which is like different from like a standard studio, which like builds for 2 years behind doors under secrecy. We are building like right out in the open in real time. Another key component is we have provided the building blocks, which are these creative primitives, the wizards themselves, to get our users started. The wizards are runes. They are like the creative seed from which you extrapolate all this creative content. Um, and then the next point, the follow up to that is okay, why would users do that? Because there is a financial incentive structure in place, meaning you actually own the IP that you're building for. This is different. This is not just like making fan art of the Simpsons and you don't actually own the Simpsons. This is, you actually own the piece that you're building for. Another key component is like the relationship between Magic Machine and the cult. It is vastly different from the relationship between Disney and its audience. This is a new type of relationship that is now only possible with the advent of blockchain technology. And here's a real key component. Blockchain / NFTs are really only one tool in our arsenal. And it's a very vital component and it's like core to everything we do, but it's really just like another tool that's like we are using to change the way a franchise is built. And we like to say it's disrupting these legacy media models. And then finally, this is not even theoretical. It's not just white papers and dreams. This is actually already happening with the titmouse thing, the comic, the game. We are already seeing it, and we are seeing it happen at scale. So those are sort of like my pitch points to non-crypto people. Dota or Bearsnick, if you guys want to chime in.
Yeah, I think
Or
that
anyone
like
else, really.
yeah, it's interesting because all these words like taste so like sour in my mouth. Like when
Sure.
I talk about like building intellectual property or user generated content or like
Yep.
that we're going to be like the highest grossing revenue franchise of all time. Like I do want to be that, right? Like I want to be on that list. But at the same time, it's like not really the point to like become a franchise, right? Like my kids don't look at Harry Potter and think like, "Oh, Harry Potter is such a great franchise." Like what they think
Yep.
about Harry Potter is like they love the dream of like playing Quidditch or like going to Hogwarts and like taking a potions class or like the heroism that they see in those stories. And so for me, like I, you know, for me, that's really the end goal is not to be like the highest revenue generating franchise, but to be like the greatest group of stories enjoyed by like the most amount of people ever.
Yeah, that's actually, that touches on like exactly how, because I have to spend unfortunately spend a lot of my time talking to people who really have like a knee-jerk negative reaction to NFTs, and the thing I tout most, that I talk about most, is not like, oh, we sold this many NFTs or we've done this much revenue. The thing I love talking about is like, we're inspiring people to write and to create every single day, because like a lot of our job in doing comic books and trying to sell a TV show and doing a game is to prove that there is an audience for what we want to make. And a lot of times people prove that audience through financial data, but it's so pleasant to prove that there's an audience through the creation of story. And
Yep.
and honestly, it hits a lot harder when I forget who it was. Someone tweeted something to the effect of like, I was so nervous and I've never been a creative writer, but now I spend 30 to 60 minutes a day creative writing. Like
Yeah.
that, I just like fell back in my chair and was so happy. And that's how I think about what we're doing and why we have value to these traditional platforms.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I came up because I wanted to just piggyback on what you guys are saying, because I do more on the side. I work more on the side of bringing the masses into crypto and crypto gaming. And you guys are focusing on the quality so much, which is awesome. That's why this project is kick-ass. But I'd love to like, so one of the coolest things is the idea of making this accessible to people who don't know anything about crypto.
Yep.
And I'm talking about like the terminology. And what I've kind of centered it around, and I've got a whole like Twitter thread pinned to my profile about this, is the idea of ownership. And you were hitting on this earlier, Elf. It's just the idea that you actually own these assets, and it could be anything. It could be an achievement. It could be like a daily record that you won one day. It could be your character. It could be an item. It could be gold. Whatever it is, you've never really owned them until now.
Yep.
And I don't. If you go through that thread, if you go through talk to me in general, I almost never talk about value, never talk about selling, never talk about gains. That's all bullshit. Because how do you sell something you don't own?
Yep.
It's all a derivative of ownership. And this is the first time ever that we've actually been able to own anything in a gaming kind of context at scale, right? It's and across borders, the siloed, there's no siloed access anymore. It's a completely revolutionary idea. So I wanted to add that in because I'm working at bringing the next 500 million gamers into crypto, and so that's my pitch. It's centered around the ownership side of things.
One of the things that we've been working on doing merch this week, and we just recently talked to someone who we really, really like. I don't know that we've engaged him formally, but he's worked on merch for like Studio Ghibli and a bunch of other kind of like companies where it's like really high quality, high end. And I'm pretty excited to start working with him and talking with him more. And the one of the things that he said was, it's really interesting to look at your project because what you actually have is most writer rooms only have like 8 people in them, but your writer room actually has like 10,000 people. And it was really fun because a lot of people that we talk to always bring up the issue of like, oh, how are you going to have consistency in a world where you have like 3,000 writers?
Yep.
But he was super optimistic about it, saying, this is amazing. You have a world where you actually have 3,000 writers. And I love that idea of that, like the sort of consistency is actually not a problem because you have all these people working together.
Yep. And Andy, your pinned thread is super great. You guys should check that out. But yeah, it's super great stuff. I was gonna say something about the comic, and I can't remember who. Somebody just commented. Someone I can't remember why I was going to pivot to the comic, but something somebody said made me think about it.
Well, because Andy said, "Oh, I'm working on bringing the next 500,000 people into NFTs through gaming," and that also reminded me of the comic, which is sort of, kind of that's one of the things we're thinking about doing with the comic is being able to use it as a tool to help people get their first NFT.
Yep, that's exactly why I thought of it. Yep, I lost my train of thought because there was a siren outside. So yeah, just one of the cool things that we're working on right now is the comic. We've mentioned it in the past, but it the real problem we had to solve was like, how do we distribute this thing? We talked about tokenizing it, we talked about printing it, we talked about the hybrid model. There's just like so many ways to do it, and I think we've kind of got a path structured. So like, but first let me say like that we think one of the points of the comic is we want to get it into the hands of non-crypto people. That's actually more important. We talked about the three paths that we want to take in 2022, and one of them is the IP path. Um, and
One
the
of the
point.
things One
Sorry,
of the
go
things
ahead.
we're talking about is the distribution of the comic, but maybe you want to give a little tease about like who's working on the comic, what's inside the comic. Maybe talk a little bit about how it's the comic itself.
Yeah. Well, the first script is written, and we've already passed it over to the artist, and then the colorist will take it over once the artist starts drawing the pages. So yeah, it's well underway. It's just yeah, and maybe I won't go into the specifics of how we distribute, but yeah, the point really just is we want to get it into the hands of as many non-crypto people as possible. Um, and perhaps even like put a little explainer in the back for like how to get your first NFT. It's we don't want to like give this traditional media piece to crypto people. We want to give this piece to non-crypto people to introduce them to crypto, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember when I was a kid, I might have even talked about this a couple Wednesdays ago. Like as a kid, I would read Nintendo Power magazine, and what they would say is like, "Oh, draw your favorite fan art of like Mario on Yoshi or something, and then we're gonna like give a reward to a free subscription or something." And so my friends and I would sit down and just like draw. We draw whatever colored pencils and mail it in. I don't think that you can draw on the envelope too, and I don't think we ever got printed. But I love that idea so much. Like that's so aligned with what we're doing. Of like, I would love to have like little contests in the comic book. Yeah, I'd love to have a couple pages in the back that sort of like get your first NFT, and maybe we have like a Pope or something that people can register if they have the comic, and ideally we'd be able to get a comic to everyone in this room, everyone in the Discord, but we can get you multiple so that you could give it away to a friend who like is maybe not into NFTs yet. I think our goal for this is really not to create kind of like some super exclusive token that now trades for 10 grand on OpenSea, but really rather to provide like a little bit of story. The show is going to take a long time, the game is going to take a long time, and so being able to provide just like a comic that everyone can enjoy, our kids can enjoy. It's not particularly precious in terms of monetary value. It's literally just around like getting the stories of wizards out into the hands of people.
Yeah, in a weird way, it's an education vehicle. We're putting it in a wrapper that people can understand and are familiar with. Yet within that vehicle, there will be a connection to Web3 and something on chain. I think it's amazing what can happen when you stop trying to make as much money as possible.
Right.
When you stop trying to like overly financialize and like think about margins and all the things that people think about in business, especially around IP, it's amazing how powerful it can get. It's exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like we even in this conversation of like the merch fellow we were talking to earlier this week. One of the things we said to him is we're like, look, first and foremost, like we don't want to lose money, but we're right now we're just trying to get wizards out into the world in like both digital and physical, and just like getting into people's hands, and getting like things that people will love to collect. And it's not really about making money. And he's basically saying that's just like a really good advantage because we're not kind of beholden to sort of like, oh, we have to move so many units before we can do a game or something like that. So yeah, the comic I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be pretty high end in terms of art, and I'm really excited to get it out. It's
Yep,
still a couple months out yet. It's not like next week or anything.
for sure. Yep. Yep. Very cool. Yeah, let's see. I've got so many other things I want to say. I'm not sure which
Well,
to
I'll have
jump.
one thing, which is
Yeah,
I heard
go for
that
it.
that there's really big anti-Big Potion Corp protests planned for next Saturday. So you and I keep a neutral stance on the matter, but I would say you should keep a close eye on the respective channels.
Okay. Yeah, is this does this have anything to do with the subreddit that Magus Wazir created, or is this something totally different?
I don't know the moderator's official position on Big Potion on the subreddit, but you for sure should, if you're a Redditor, you for sure should check out /r/Forgotten Runes. I have thought, I love that. Like, I use Reddit, I've been there a long time. And I think it's a fun channel for us to use. I've even thought about like if we should automatically post lore or have some sort of bots, but I don't want to overrun it with bots right away. Let's just let it take organically. But yeah, if you use Reddit, check out our Forgotten Runes. Hi, Madotsuki.
Matto.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Hey, do you know about Big Potion or anti-Big Potion protests?
Oh yeah, we're not supposed to be talking about those right now until we have everything set up. We don't want to get our plans ruined.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. There's I can't remember. Did I mention the wizard party happening in the Thirsty Wizard right now? Did I talk about that?
I don't think
No,
so.
not yet.
Yeah, there's a wizard party in the Thirsty Wizard in World Wide Web 3 at the Wizard Tavern. And yeah, I think it was organized by Druid Ofaris. So yeah, check that out. We always talk about World Wide Web 3. We love what they're doing. We love that they built a special tavern for wizards. And so yeah, I think there's a big party happening in there right as we speak. And then speaking of Web 3, an upcoming meta, Atlantis World, is building a very cool clubhouse. We retweeted the preliminary artwork for that on our Twitter timeline, so it's looking great. I'm loving what Atlantis World is doing, and I can't wait to see more. And then there's something called Raid Party. Dota, do you know much about that?
So I've been talking to founders there. I honestly don't know much about the mechanics of the game. The founders friendly, and they're really putting the work to kind of customize player characters for wizards. So I know that they're working hard on it, but I don't really know much more than that.
Okay, cool. And then there's like an FTX giveaway. Normally we don't talk about giveaways, but FTX is like a pretty big deal. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that. Like FTX is doing like a new NFT platform, right?
That's right. I think it's already working. The way that it works, I mean, basically, I don't know if you'd call it custodial because it's managed by their smart contract. I suppose it must be. So So the way that it works is you have to deposit your NFTs into their smart contract, and then you can kind of trade off chain on FTX if that's where you like to trade. So I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see how it plays out because it does take like gas to deposit and withdraw. But yeah, if you want to trade wizards, that's a place you can do it.
Very cool. Okay, and then I had one other little like I guess rant or whatever that I wanted to talk about. And it sort of follows from what I was talking about earlier with just like user generated content and how our project is sort of the next stage in the media revolution. And I don't know, this is kind of just an interesting thing I came across on YouTube a couple months ago. So I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the YouTube creator. He's called Super Eye Patch Wolf. And he just makes some of the best videos about meme culture. It seems to be like one of his specialties. And so he put out in 2019, he put out this video about The Simpsons. And it's called The Bizarre Reality of The Simpsons. And it's like, I don't know, maybe like a 30-minute video. And it's resonated with me for years. And it's made me really think about like the media landscape and how these IPs get formed and how they evolve and how they shape. And so yeah, so he dealt with The Simpsons in this particular video. And about, as most of you know, The Simpsons is like one of the oldest TV shows in television history. It's still freaking going. But the crazy thing about it is like it's totally changed. It is nothing like what it started out as. The Simpsons are just like they're the characters, the storylines, even the animation itself. It's just totally different. It's nothing like it used to be. And so it's not as good, frankly. It's for me, a really good example of how The Simpsons has changed is I saw this other YouTube video of The Simpsons, where they did this brand partnership with Balenciaga, of all things, the fashion brand Balenciaga. And the result, this video is like the total antithesis of what Matt Groening would have created for The Simpsons in the early days. Because in the early days, The Simpsons, they used to lampoon capitalist culture. They would have skewered high fashion with witty jokes. But now in this piece, they've just totally mutated Marge Simpson into some distorted version of like a Real housewife obsessed with runway fashion. And then like Homer just like totally indulges this fantasy. In fact, the whole town of Springfield just like it's just like a big ad for Balenciaga. And they totally changed the characters to make this ad to just sell clothes. Um, and so yeah, so the Simpsons are basically dead, and the icing on this death cake is of course Disney now owns them. Um, and so the question in this video by Super Eye Patch Wolf is, well, if they're dead, how are they still surviving? Why are they still on air? Um, because they're not able to tell witty stories that critique modern society. The characters are a shell of what they were. They have lost all humanity. So how is it that they're still relevant? How are they still on air? And so Super Eye Patch Wolf, he argues that it's meme culture that's keeping them alive. Um, there's so many memes about The Simpsons on the internet. There's entire Instagram feeds that are just dedicated to Simpsons memes. There's the Simpson aesthetic. There's like a music genre on the internet that just deals with Simpsons. And so basically, the beautiful thing about this meme culture for The Simpsons is that the meme form of Simpsons is actually able to tell stories with humanity. It actually tells stories that speak to a more authentic culture rather than the superficial commercial culture that we see in the show itself. And so through these memes, these new themes, these new styles, these new tones allow The Simpsons to grow and stay relevant. Um, so, why do I bring this up? I think there's something interesting about this that sort of parallels with what we're doing with Forgotten Runes. If to me, it's like, what happens if you build this meme culture component into the project itself from the very beginning? What happens when you build and incentivize the user-generated content as a primary part of your project? It's a part that's developed in parallel, not as an afterthought, but as a vital piece of what the studio is developing. It's an interesting experiment at the very least, but it's something I think could be huge if executed well.
I've never heard that breakdown of meme culture keeping the core entity alive. I think that's really interesting. I
Yeah.
also think, just for what it's worth, because I've spent so much time in that world, I actually don't think the Simpsons are still on the air because of meme culture. I think they're still on the air because these companies like Fox, now owned by Disney, are so desperate for things that have brand awareness that they'd rather ride something into the ground until it's just fully dead, exploded, rather than leave any like pennies on the ground, potential pennies.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I mean, obviously, there's still fans of The Simpsons, and maybe a lot of people love the new direction that it's gone in. But just like, yeah, the argument that Super Eye Patch Wolf makes in this video is just that, at the very least, it's what made Simpsons relevant, at least even to younger generations. And like, you know, I imagine there's like a big contingent of quote Simpsons fans who don't even watch the show and who only engage in the meme format of Simpsons.
Oh yeah, I mean SpongeBob is the same thing, right? Like my son never really watched SpongeBob. He is very aware who SpongeBob is though through meme culture. So
Yep,
it keeps it alive.
for
I also
sure.
think it's very reminiscent of like the maybe what is the last leg of Web 2. And you know, Elf and I were very much a part of this in a previous iteration of our lives, but with like first generation influencers on YouTube who started using YouTube and remixing pop culture before copyright really sort of got in the, you know, not got in the way, but started to pervade through YouTube. I mean, the remix culture that's been happening for over a decade.
Yep, yep, for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's just I don't know. The takeaway for me is like, you know, what happens when you build a project with that like built into it from the beginning? You know, I don't know the answer, but it's already like showing some very interesting results for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But Zayla Soul, you came up, and I wanted to call out your Dream Master baby. Super cute.
Congrats.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. She's adorable.
Very cute.
I also want to shout out Henboyd. Oh man, Henboyd, you've got such a creative family because if I'm not mistaken, you're doing paintings, your wife is doing paintings, and then I think you also sent me like some homebrew games that you were playing with your kids. It's still really cool to see all the stuff you guys are creating together. I really love it.
Yes.
And working out on Peloton. I think that's the first Wizard Peloton avatar I've seen.
For sure. Archmagus, Merlin, hello.
Hey, I was just gonna ask, are we gonna have some kind of event for Easter, or do you have something planned?
We do not have anything planned,
Okay.
but we might. That doesn't mean we won't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still got some time. Yeah. What did you have in mind?
No, just I was thinking maybe like an Easter egg hunt or something like that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, an egg decorating contest, world egg decorating contest.
Yeah, something like that.
You know.
How about a world egg burning contest?
Yeah.
We could burn another world egg.
Yeah. Very cool. Bam Bam, hello.
Hi, Bam Bam.
What's going on?
What up?
I just wanted to let all the Wizzies know that I am going to organize like a lore reading workshop with one of my friends who works on audiobooks. And yeah, just wanted to open that up to everybody, let everyone know. I know quite a few people were interested. Hit me up on Discord just to let me know what type of stuff you're interested in learning about, if there's anything specific. Otherwise, it'll be more like general. But just wanted to put that out there for everyone.
The idea is like enunciation, audio equipment, like how to prepare, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so she can help us figure out, like, you know, because she does some of her own editing and mixing as well. So like actually like packaging it to the end. But also, I mean, I feel like it's more valuable to sort of like, how do you how do you express these characters in the best way possible? Like in that lore that I read for Bonzo, oh my God, like I had to be a man and a woman. And it was really hard for me, but I feel like, there's a lot of different like voice acting techniques that I feel like she'd be able to help us with.
Cool. That sounds amazing.
Very cool. Yeah. Bam Bam, we love that you're reading the Book of Lore.
Oh, it's so good.
It's the best.
I'm getting like a lot of anxiety because I see so much lore being written every single day, even ones I've passed, and I'm just like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this?
I believe in you. It's been really good, and I have a tough time kind of like reading through it sometimes. Maybe we need to change the font, but I feel like I have a much easier time visualizing it when I hear you reading it. So thank you. Yeah. Hi, Margaret. I see you have your hand up.
Oh yeah, hi. I just wanted I have two things. I wanted to announce first of all that I was chatting with Dottas and Elf, and they told me that if you want to have a poem made, and one of the parchments that I've been making poems for people, they don't have to necessarily look like the standard parchment. So I've had one wizard drew an awesome piece of line art that I could include. And I'm going to be designing, getting my pixel art friend Pixel Crow to design some cool special limited edition backgrounds. So that's going to be coming pretty soon. And watch this space. So if you want to have something different on your parchment, just let me know.
Yes.
And I also have a song that I'd love to sing if we're doing any lore on Wizard Wednesday today.
Oh, great! Yeah,
great.
let's put that off. Just like I don't know, a few more minutes.
Sure.
Maybe we go out with the song. I love when you sing, Margaret, for sure. Zela Sol, you've got your hand up.
All right. We're trying to finalize plans for the wizards that are meeting for dinner at East Denver. So if anybody is going, reach out to me or Bam Bam either in Discord or on Twitter. You can DM us.
Fantastic.
And then the stickers arrived in the mail too, so that happened.
Okay, great.
Very
That's
cool.
great. Yeah, we want to be able to send up more stickers. I actually am I have an idea for like a page on the website where you can like generate your own sticker sheets. I mean, we have like the one that was in the merch box, but I want to be able to like randomize it. So, work on that, and we can send it up soon. Hi, Bam Bam. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I didn't. I did it on accident. Ignore me.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So I told Jitcy that he would be allowed to read lore today. So let's do Jitsy's lore, and then we'll go out with Margaret's song.
Yeah, I want to answer a couple of questions. There were a couple of questions on the on Discord that I wanted to address.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Maybe we could do those. So SPZ asked a question about there's a few questions about warriors. And they say, what are the ratio of warriors relative to wizards? Will they be companions? Are there orcs, elves, dwarf types? And then, some other people ask, like, are wizard races like kobolds? Are they integrated into warriors? Please tease us, is what they said. So, let me talk a smidge about warriors. I'll let Alf talk a smidge about warriors. For me, I think that the warriors drop it'll be a little bit bigger than wizards, but probably not so much bigger that it's like ridiculous. So I'm thinking that it will be like somewhere between 12,000 to I would be surprised to do 15,000. But for me right now in this moment, that would be the absolute max, and even that would depend. So there will be more warriors than wizards, and I think it really depends on kind of. We're planning on it being post land sale. I'll tell you what. All this talk of kind of like meme culture and sort of like bottom up content generation and like commissions and art and lore. It's I feel that we want to build like this a serious mainline work, and for me, a big part of that will be like the show. So we've already signed a deal to develop a show with Titmouse, but the cost for an episode at the level that we want to do is somewhere around like $1.5 million to maybe as much as $2 million per episode. So for like a 6 to 8 episode season, we're talking about something like $15 million. We'll talk about this kind of as like a group and as a community, but like one of sort of my personal sort of feelings and thinkings is that like I would love to structure Warriors in such a way that it provides enough funding for a show to be created. There's a lot of like, in the same way that there's a lot of like weird incentive systems in NFTs, right? In NFT drops, there's also a lot of weird incentive systems in terms of like getting a show created and then getting people to join and then getting it sold, right? For example, for us to just pay for it all up front, maybe actually isn't the best like strategy. So Bear Snake has done this before, and he's been kind of guiding us. If you just pay for the show all up front, now it's actually harder to sell it because they know your back is against the wall because you already paid 15 million to create it. So I think there's a bit of like a chess game in terms of like how we execute this out. But really, my dream, right? My dream is that with Warriors, we structure a drop that is significant. It brings in a lot of new like people into the Forgotten Runes community, and then also I'll say this carefully, it provides enough money to get us a seat at the table and a good negotiating position to get a show created and then also to get a show sold. So Titmouse, for example, has a first look deal with Netflix on their adult animation. That doesn't mean that like if we pay for a show, Netflix will run it automatically. Like there's still sort of like a shopping process, and whatever. There's a whole rigmarole to really make that work. But in my mind, like imagine how amazing it would be if we could do like Warriors drop, say this summer, for example. It provides enough money that we can kick off that process to start a show. It's still a couple of years out before anyone would ever see it, but still, we'll still all want a Wizards show to exist in a couple of years from now. So I don't know. That wasn't actually answering any of your questions about the collection, but just sort of like telling you my thinking about Warriors and how we're thinking about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything there? Yeah.
I'll just quickly add on the warrior thing. There's two reasons we would do actually more warriors. One is a lore reason. It's just in the fantasy genre, there's always more warriors than wizards. There's a power dynamic. The wizards are elite. I always want to make sure they're elite. That comes in like having smaller numbers. Secondly, we are building a game / metaverse. We need more people with a unique NFT to populate that metaverse. Therefore, we need way more characters. So there's a lore reason and I guess a utility reason that we're doing more warriors.
Also, just to add on, I think
we lost you, Bear.
Oh, you cut out there.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Barely.
Oh.
Barely.
Yep.
Barely.
Try again.
Of course.
Try
All right.
again.
So some of that rigmarole.
I can hear you.
Some of that rigmarole is actually finding someone who sees what we all see collectively in this world. And so part of that is finding someone who can work with us to be what we call in the industry like a showrunner, someone who's like run shows, they hire writers, they've gone through the process, they know the scripts, and Elf and I have both done that on the executive side and on the writing side. But it's interesting, right? Because it goes back to what you were talking about, Elf, is like leading with, hey, this is an NFT project isn't necessarily the most conducive to finding someone. But the person who will end up getting that role should be someone who feels at home on Wizard Wednesdays, who feels at home making lore. And it's been an interesting process talking to people, because the only type of personality that could help lead this charge with us is someone who's cut from the same cloth as the cult. And they're harder to find than you would think.
Yes, they are. Cool. So we only have, I don't know, a little bit of time left. Dota, do you want to jump to Jitcy or do you want to do a few more questions? We can run late if we need to.
No, let's do Jitzy and then Margaret, and then we can be done.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to say, Jitsi sent me his lore earlier in the week, and it is great. I'll make more comments about it, but without further ado, Jitsi.
Hey everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hey,
can.
Jitzy.
Cool. So I made a script. It's 8 pages, which should run about 8 minutes. So I'm gonna copy it into the Discord too for people to follow along, because reading scripts it helps to maintain it. If you want to, but you can just listen to me as well. But hearing a script read is a little bit different than lore. So it has lore elements, and it's actually funny that we're in the Thirsty Wizard, because this takes place in the tavern with Troll and another character. And sorry, my voice is hoarse. I got COVID today. There's the Google Drive for it. I'm gonna read. I have more nerves right now than I've ever had in competition of esports, and that says something. So I'll start it off. Exterior wilderness night. Snow falls. A set of feet crunch on fresh snow. Big paws mimic each step close behind. Zeppelin and Kira Windrunner gaze forward. Exotic flowers fill Kira's hair, a case of camouflage and design. A staff taller than her doubled as a walking stick. A mysterious blade under her cloak. On top of the staff an orb sparkling with light. Zeppelin a huge husky with brown fur and blue eyes. The two stand together at the hip. In the distance, a small tavern. The crackle of fire and flames are the only thing visible. Kira turns away from the tavern and begins walking into the dark. Zeppelin pulls on Kira's clothes with his teeth, plops down. Kira, maybe another night. We have a long trek. Zeppelin barks. Kira, Zeppelin, quiet. Kira's eyes dart across shadows. Zeppelin barks once more. Zeppelin, this isn't the time. We hear laughter. Zeppelin stares at Kira, firmly pressing his snout against her hand, holding it there. Kira rolls her eyes, kneels, eyes level with Zeppelin. Kira, fine. I could go for a brew, 10 minutes tops. They begin their walk towards the tavern. Halfway between the tavern and them is a wizard, cold, down on his luck. Cold wizard, please can you help me? The wizard reaches out with a withered hand, a locket clenched. Zeppelin begins walking towards the cold wizard. Kira whistles. Kira, no, Zeppelin, you remember last time. Kira and Zeppelin walk past the wizard. Zeppelin looks back while they continue on. Interior, the tavern, night. Bottles, remnants, things of mystery, and jelly donuts fill the shelves. Wizards gather in the corner and at the tavern countertops. Whispers fill the air. Unlit except for a fire pit 6 feet wide, which is being tended to by one wizard, fire wizard, Het Flumo. A flame extends from a wand, bolstering the fire. A small kobold scurries around the tavern, filling flagons and chatting to those who will give him an ear. He glides across the tavern, hands filled, on the brink of running into everything and anything, but never does. Unnoticed, Kira and Zeppelin stand in the doorframe. Another dog in the corner gives a small growl. More than half the tavern is uninterested and continues drinking. The kobold suddenly appears next to them. Kira flinches in surprise. The kobold flinches because she flinches, putting up his dukes and bouncing off his tiptoes. The kobold stands in a strange boxing stance. Random kobold. Greetings. Sorry, you caught me by surprise. The kobold puts his fist down and relaxes. Kira, you snuck up on me. Random kobold. Right, apologies. Ghost Eater Troll of the Fae is the name and drinking is the game. What are you having? Kira, I don't know. Trollin. Nonsense. First time witches drink for free. Kira looks around the room with trained eyes. Trollin. Don't mind them, they are harmless. And in about, Trollin's eyes suddenly turn pitch black, then back to normal. Trollin. 6 minutes and 23 seconds, all will change. Several wizards in the tavern smack their staves on the floor and echo. Trollin is now behind Kira and slowly pushing her towards the bar. Zeppelin joins in the effort. Trollin walks behind the counter, his head only visible. Jazara sits at a bar stool on the edge of the row. Kira, thank you. What will you have to drink? Trollin plops a flagon filled with Cobalt Kool-Aid on the counter. Trollin, the one and only Cobalt Kool-Aid. I wouldn't drink too much, though. That is imported straight from Goblin Town. Kira picks up the drink and puts the flagon in front of Zeppelin. One sniff, blank eyes, safe. Kira brings the drink up to her lips. She winces and does not drink from the flagon. Staffs from the wizards slam the wood floor. Kira's attention snaps to the gathering of wizards making noise. Trollin, what brings you to the tavern? Kira looks back. Trollin is now standing on the countertop. Kira, I hear you have some decent ale. Trollin laughs. Trollin, you might be the first wizard to ever say that. A small ooze rolls and jumps across the countertop, but leaves no trail. Not ooze, a blue fire makes up the small creature. Jasper floats to the shoulder of Trollin and perches. A small familiar filled with mystery, unknown to all except Trollin. Jasper's eyes suddenly turn pitch black. Trollin laughs and looks at Kira. Jasper's beady eyes return to form. Trollin, this here is my dear friend Jasper. He says you look funny. Kira, strange coming from a moving campfire. Jasper jumps from Trollin's shoulder towards Zeppelin. Midair, Kira pulls a blade out from under her cloak and meets the creature. Before the blade can cut Jasper, the creature teleports past the blade and lands on Zeppelin's head with ease. A tail wag, Jasper nuzzles content. During her moment of being distracted, Trollin teleports behind Kira, dagger pushed the back of her neck. Trollin, blades don't work on Jasper, but you, on the other hand, different story. A stir from the crowd of wizards, a few cloaks lifted from heads, small exchanges. Trollin waves his hand in the air. Another slam of staffs filled the tavern. Trollin, poorly placed blade, but an accident. Agreed? Kira retracts her blade slowly. Trollin teleports back to the countertop. Kira looks to Zeppelin. The husky's face remains blank and idle. Trollin, no worries. You wouldn't be the first and you won't be the last. You have come on an interesting night. Kira, I don't know how it could be possibly get more interesting. Trollin begins tapping his foot on the countertop. A small cheer fills the air. Trollin points to the flag in front of Kira. Trollin, want to find out? We see Kira ponder the situation. Trollin and the strange ale in front of her. Her hand inches towards the flag and she stops. Trollin stops tapping his foot. The tavern falls into a hush. Beat. Suddenly, her hand takes the flagon and downs the drink all in one motion. Trollin smiles from ear to ear. Trollin starts slamming his foot on the countertop. This time, the tavern erupts with noise. Kira focuses on keeping the ale down once again. She is stunned by the movement across the tavern. Candles in the corner of the tavern become lit. Hoods fall. Familiars come into sight and wizards are illuminated. The banging continues. The crowd now sets a beat with their staves and feet. A festivity begins to take form. Trollin, welcome one and welcome all except you nasty goblins. Laughter, cheers. Wizards begin to crowd closer. Trollin jumps from ground to counter. He sing chants and fills up multiple flagons of Cobalt Kool-Aid while doing so. Trollin, a new wizard has made it to our beloved tavern. Treat her well. Flagons make up his hands, arms, and feet as he juggles too many for any sane wizard. Trollin throws flagons to onlookers. Trollin, I'm sure a lot of you remember your first night here. Trollin chuckles. Or maybe not. Laughter, cheers. Trollin claps his hands. No mere clap. Forced silence. A spell fills the air, voice suspended. Tonight we forget, summon idle minds, for we never know when the end is near. If I go far away, I'll always remember your cheer. So drink with me on sailors' feet until the sun rises. Those who dance, please, do not fear, you will never be forgotten. The spell fizzles, easing the tavern into normality. Music begins playing, filled with harmony and tempo. Patrons return to their beat and conversation. Trollin jumps and lands next to Kira and extends a hand. Trollin, do you wish to dance? Other wizards spring to life with dance and laughter, slosh of flagons and clink of metal. Arms find shoulders, the drunk find walls. Familiars come out from below cloaks, dogs and cats wander away from hips, and snakes slither out from hats. An electric moment filled with magic, music, and dance. The tavern comes to life. Kira, but I don't know how. Trollin shrugs. Neither do I. Trollin grabs Kira's hand and pulls her into the crowd next to the fire pit. They glide across the tavern. Wizards make way with their every move. They find themselves shoulder to shoulder with the other wizards. One wizard takes his hat off and plops it onto Kira's head as they sway and dance. Kira laughs for the first time that night. Trollin, now will you tell me what brings you to this tavern? Kira scans the crowd. Kira, a friend. Kira looks into the crowd and finds Zeppelin, runs to him. She pushes aside animals and wizards. She softly pulls his tail and raises her eyebrow. She is met with a lick. They stare at one another. Kira collides her fists together twice. Zeppelin hops with excitement. Kira runs to a clearing a few steps away from the crowd. Zeppelin runs straight at Kira, full sprint. She rolls backwards. A group of wizards notice the collision, quote unquote. Kira responds with a lunge. Zeppelin a jump. Kira a roll. Zeppelin a trot. More wizards begin to take notice. A dance. A dance only known to Kira and Zeppelin. They begin to engulf the crowd's attention. The tavern watches in awe as wizard and husky move in perfect harmony. This goes on for minutes. Both Kira and Zeppelin dance their chaotic dance filled with creativity and muscle memory formed from 1,000 previous duets. Their dance slows down, breaking the trance, and they return to the festivities. They are met with applause. Cobalt Kool-Aid splashes through the air. Trollin walks back behind the counter and starts cleaning mugs. Jasper rolls around on the countertop. Jasper's eyes go pitch black. Trollin to Jasper. Yeah, she might be all right. Exterior outside the tavern, night. Kira sits on the snow. Zeppelin paces nearby. Kira is buzzed. Kira spots the cold wizard in the distance. She looks around, knowing she will find no one. She stares at Zeppelin. A small smile forms on her face. Kira, I get it now, Zeppelin. Kira begins walking towards the wizard. Halfway there, we notice the cold wizard isn't moving. Kira picks up the pace, which turns into a full sprint. Kira slides next to the cold wizard. Kira, hey, wake up! The cold wizard isn't moving. Kira, no. Panic sets in. Kira on her knees holds the cold wizard, not knowing what to do. Kira, help! Nothing. Kira frantically looks around. A hand clenched finds Kira's hand. Cold wizard, take This. His hands unclenched, revealing a locket. They're going to be all right. Hold on. Cold Wizard, take it. Kira takes the small locket. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I'm going to go get help. Zeppelin lays down in the snow. Cold Wizard, no, my time has come. I merely ask one thing. Kira, anything. What? The Cold Wizard starts to fade. We don't know if he can muster his words. Cold Wizard, you must find the Sphinx. Kira looks to the small locket in one of her hands. Her gaze returns to the Cold Wizard. It is too late. The Cold Wizard draws his last breath and dies in her arms. Kira closes her eyes. Beat. Kira lays the Cold Wizard down on the ground. She punches the snow. Her attention moves to the locket. A simple-looking locket. It would never stand out at a jewelry store. Kira turns the locket over in her hand and pries it open. A burst of magic escapes from the locket, pushing Kira and Zeppelin back at a few feet. The locket levitates midair. A second burst. Runes with an ember glow appear overhead. A booming voice shouts the following. You will search far and wide, but most likely never find me. I keep what you love. There is only one way of getting it back. Time is now your enemy. The locket slams shut and drops to the earth. At the same moment, a vortex appears above Zeppelin. It begins pulling the husky in. We see Kira notice a strange sound, but confused. Zeppelin whimpers. We see a terror set in. She does a 180 and sees Zeppelin being pulled into the vortex. A scream explodes from Kira. No! Kira dives at the vortex. Her hand barely misses Zeppelin's paw. The vortex disappears out of sight along with Zeppelin. Kira lays there in the snow crying. Cut to a shot of the tavern's exterior. Through the front door, we see dancing and celebration. We continue to zoom out, a fleeting scene. We move into the darkness until laughter and flame fade into the night. We see Kira in the snow, alone and crying. End.
Wow.
So did Zeppelin get sucked into the vortex? That's like
Yeah.
the it's that gate in World Wide Web 3 where you bounce back and forth between the tavern. Is that the vortex?
It's a vortex that came out of the locket.
Right. Okay. And then my second question is, did she actually dance with her dog, or was she just drunk and she imagined it?
Yeah, she actually did. I mean, the whole concept was that like she's kind of a wanderer out in the world, and she only has this dog who's Zeppelin that's her like base, right? And so like they do these things that would be like a dance out in the snow or something that done it 1,000 times. So
Got it. But it sounded like Trollin was like trying to hit on her.
I mean, maybe in the back of my mind subconsciously I wrote that into Troll, and I have no idea. But
yeah, it sounded like
Get along
Trollin
with everyone.
was like trying to like I don't know like move in, make a move, and then the dog butts in and is like, nope, I'm gonna dance with her.
It was great. I read along the whole time. I want to turn this into a movie now.
Yeah, no, it is great. I love how much like just like real character development went into these characters. They've got a lot of humanity. They really feel alive.
yeah, appreciate it. I mean, sorry it took so long, but I mean, I guess the only thing I say about Trollin is that I really act through him, just try to include people into what we're doing, and that came out onto my script, and I guess it's less of hitting on and more I'm trying to encourage to be a part of what we're doing, if anything. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, and then my final favorite thing is that that whole story is based on a true story. That all that actually happened in the Wizard Tavern, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, we are over, but it looks like a lot of you had things to say, but we told Margaret that she would sing us out. Natrix, did you want to say something real quick though before we go to Margaret's song?
Yes, thank you. I'll be quick. Well, first I want to say like I really enjoy hearing people read the lore, like in Bam Bam Space. Like it feels like all warm and cozy, like I'm a kid, like having stories read to me. Definitely. And I just really like hearing you guys read your stories. I also wanted to mention that I made some art that involves my wizards, and it's kind of naughty, so I won't pin it up here. But I think some of you might like appreciate it or find it funny. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Natrix. And Lorepunk / Margaret.
Hey, thanks very much. And I do highly recommend you check out Natrix's art because it's awesome. And I think all the wizards will like it. I'm going to sing a little song. Thank you very much. And it's just one of these things I kind of write and paste in the Secret Tower chat in the Discord. And it started as a poem, but then I realized it was a song. And it's about magic gone wrong. which is my favorite topic. So here we are. In the dark of late December, I had practiced every spell I could learn from half an ember by the lonely midnight bell. Spirits offered me a flavor of the mighty sorcerer's old. In the dark of late December, shivering with the bitter cold, and I wonder why it's so cold. 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 When a rune of shadow beckons, listen you with awe and fear of the worlds we seldom reckon, half a blink from now and here. I knew that I was forspoken to the darkness at my birth. Some things are already broken, far more trouble than we're worth. And I wonder why it's so cold. 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 As the wind blew past my transom, whistling through new domain, I was newly bold and handsome in my fevered magic brain, raising an enormous power, nothing further I remember. All burnt down in half an hour in the dark of late December. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you, Margaret. You know, I just wonder,
you
are
did
there any
great.
other Twitter spaces that have people singing?
Oh man, only if Margaret's there.
Thanks so much for letting me sing it. I just wanted to share it because I don't think you can put audio in the Book of Lore yet, so I thought I would just
We are
share
adding
it here.
that. We are adding that, and we'll make sure we can get it in.
Yeah, love it. All right, thanks very, very much, guys.
Thank you,
Yes,
Margaret.
and thank you to everybody who attended our Wizard Wednesday. This has been Elf
And Dotta.
and Margaret, our singing bard, Madotsuki, Bam Bam, Bear Snake, Zayla Soul and his Dream Master baby, Zeppelin the dancing dog, Jitcy, and the famous Tanya Del Rio, channeling out from the Quantum Downs. Good night, everybody.